In business today, 3 things to know. First, the market is on the rebound after new concerns over the economy caused huge sell-offs and world stocks to plunge. Question, what will the new Fed chairman Janet Yellen do to calm rising fears in the U.S.? Then, emerging market woes continue, extending the worst start to the year on record. New opportunities to jumpstart the global economic recovery, but will it work? And wearable technologies? High-tech toys that can be worn on nearly every part of the body and becoming a big part of our everyday lives. Arise Xchange starts right now. Hello, I'm Julian Phillips, in for the Schmertz, Andrew Schmertz, that is. World stocks steady today after falling to record lows as investors pay close attention to economic data after a key manufacturing report in U.S. auto sales missed expectations. New Federal Reserve Chair Janet Yellen begins her era taking control of the Fed as the central banks begin to unwind its massive economic stimulus program. We'll have more on this with Rockwell Global Capital's Peter Cardillo shortly with his thoughts on Janet Yellen and the economy. But first, here's a look at the markets. The Dow closing at 15,445. The S&P 500 closing at 1755. And the NASDAQ ended the day at 4031. Here's a look at the stocks we are watching today. Bank of America announcing today it extended $10.9 billion in new loans to small businesses in 2013, a 26% increase over 2012. The company has seen new monthly small business originations increase to year for 36 consecutive months. Last year, the bank's combined new and renewal small business lending totaled more than $22 billion. Bank of America closing down to $16.35. 54-year-old fashion icon Michael Kors is the world's newest billionaire. The longtime Project Runway judges saw his net worth skyrocket in December 2011 when his company made its debut on the New York Stock Exchange. Michael Kors closing up to $89.93. Yum Brands, the parent company of KFC, Pizza Hut, and Taco Bell, posted fourth quarterly earnings that beat expectations at 86 per share on sales of $4.1.8 billion. Yum Brands closing up to $72.06. Well, Federal Reserve Chairwoman Janet Yellen now in the hot seat, taking over the Federal Reserve, and she will have her work cut out for her, no doubt. What can we expect from the world's most powerful woman and her plan to correct the markets? For that, we turn to Rockwell Global Capital's Peter Cardillo. Welcome back to, of course, Arise Xchange.
Good to be back.
Look, most people are saying that Janet Yellen probably will not do anything different than Ben Bernanke did. What are your thoughts?
That's correct. I don't think she will, and obviously, with the economy certainly in better shape now than when Ben Bernanke took over the ranks. Obviously, her workout now is to make sure that inflation stays in check, and of course that the economy continues to move in the right direction. Now, even though we have a bit of a softness appearing in economic activity at this moment, which, by the way, I think is mostly related to weather problems, weather conditions. I think the bottom line is that she's probably going to stay on the same path. I don't think she's going to change monetary policy, at least until the first quarter or possibly the second quarter of 2015, which brings us back to the tapering factor. There again, I think she stays the course. Unless we see a real erosion in jobs creation and an uptick in unemployment, I suspect that the Fed is going to continue to pull back at each meeting by about $10 billion a month.
Okay, well, look, let's focus on the markets. Of course, it went down 300 points yesterday. I mean, that was a serious scare for a lot of people. What's going on with that, Peter?
I think, the correction is here. I was a little bit surprised that we're having the correction now. I thought it would be perhaps towards the end of the quarter, the latter part of this quarter, first part of the second quarter, but it's here, and it began on Friday. It began on Friday because, from a technical perspective, the averages broke the support levels in a big way. And as you know, yesterday, we saw a big drop in the averages.
I mean, that was a huge drop, Peter.
A huge drop. But, you know, if you really take into consideration that the market has had such an extraordinary upswing over the past year, percentage-wise, it's a piece of cake. You know, we're down, what, close to maybe 5% since the beginning of the year. And if you look at some of the prices, they really haven't departed very much from their historic highs.
Is this a good time for investors to jump into the market now with the lows that we're seeing?
I think the correction has a little bit further to go. I think we could probably see the S&P get down to the 1,700 with some support area around 1710, 720. At that point, I certainly would begin to buy stocks. And of course, you know, I think what's going to happen here is that I don't think we're going to see any real plunge in the market like we saw yesterday. But I think the market is going to dance to the tune of one step forward and two step backwards.
So basically, this will be an indicator of what we're going to see perhaps for the rest of this year, for the rest of 2014.
No. I would say perhaps for this quarter, going into the next quarter. But then after that, I think the economy picks up steam. I think that corporate earnings will continue to grow. And I think the market will tack on another 8 to 10% after correcting 8 to 10%.
Peter Cardillo reading the tea leaves. Peter, thank you so much. And feel better, by the way.
Thank you. You too.
Okay. Coming up, big changes from Microsoft. The new CEO and chairman of the board taking over. Find out who they are when Arise Xchange returns. Stay with us.
I think that people in America do care about what happens throughout the world.
Global warming is probably something that has to be addressed sooner rather than later.
From Somalia and the genocide there, and that's something people don't know about. They have no idea the brevity of that situation.
The first thing I think about when I think of Africa is like war and famine and disease.
And right now with the tsunami that happened or the earthquakes in, Japan, we always look out for other people.
Arise News, every culture, every angle.
Arise News is a different kind of network. We are able to tell our own stories, and we're able to cover stories in a way that other media outlets don't do. We've got world-class journalists, veteran journalists who have been in this industry for decades, not just in front of the camera, but behind the scenes as well. Arise News is a place where we can tell stories in an interesting, factual, inclusive way like no one else in the business can.
Welcome back to the Exchange. Now time for our business ticker today. After years of political wrangling, Congress finally approved a 5-year farm bill that provides food for the needy and subsidies for farmers. The Senate vote on Tuesday sends a measure to President Obama, who is expected to sign it. The bill provides a financial cushion for farmers who face unpredictable weather and market conditions. Now, the vast majority of its nearly $100 billion a year cost is for the food stamp program, which aids 1 in 7 Americans. 22-year Microsoft veteran Satya Nadella has been named as the new CEO of Microsoft, taking the reins from Steve Ballmer, who announced in August that he was stepping down. Nadella oversaw different aspects of the company's corporate software business since 1992, and his unit has been reportedly one of the company's best-performing units. Microsoft founder Bill Gates will also step down as chairman of the company's board, and John Thompson, CEO of Virtual Instruments and former CEO of Symantec Corporation, replaces Bill Gates as chairman of the Microsoft board. Well, hundreds of employees at Disney are expected to receive pink slips this week from the company's struggling gaming division after the company reported a disappointing earnings report. Disney Interactive started in 1995 as a Disney online unit. In 2008, Disney merged its Disney Interactive Studios and the Walt Disney Internet Group to form the Disney Interactive Group. Well, experts say heroin is back with a vengeance, and they say the cheap costs and easy access to the drug has caused heroin use and deaths related to the illicit drug to soar in the U.S. Now get this, more than 660,000 Americans have used heroin in 2012. Health officials say almost double the number from 5 years earlier. Heroin is expected in causing the death of actor Philip Seymour Hoffman this weekend. Officials say a bag of heroin now sells for $8 to $10, compared to the prescription drug equivalent of Vicodin, which costs about $30. Well, New Jersey Governor Chris Christie denying accusations today that he knew nothing about the planning or execution of lane closings at the George Washington Bridge back in September of last year. A Christie appointee, David Wildstein, released a letter last week saying Christie knew about the closures as they were happening. Bridgegate is at the heart of a scandal threatening Christie's political future. Christie says his office is complying with a subpoena from the U.S. Attorney in New Jersey and another from legislative investigators over this matter. Well, huge sell-offs and emerging market woes sparking concerns for investors as world stocks tumbled. Our next guest says despite the worry, Africa has become a hotbed for investors. Brian Jacobson of Wells Fargo Funds Management joins us now from Milwaukee to tell us why. Hello, Brian.
Nice to talk to you again.
Absolutely. Well, tell us about Africa. We understand, of course, it's a continent that has great resources and wealth. But, you know, I was certainly alarmed and also surprised that investors are coming in with all the political upheaval and violence going on in many countries over there.
Sure, there is obviously reason to be concerned, especially in certain areas. If you think about the conflict between Sudan and South Sudan, that's one of the big ones that stands out in my mind as far as why would investors be flocking into countries like that. And I think the reason is because they're trying to avoid some of the political conflict and go into some of the areas that might be considered more, if you will, safe havens, more into the South Africa, going into Nigeria, going into Egypt. They do have their problems, but I think that the likelihood is that as foreign investors come in, they're feeling as though they're going to have certain protections, and they just really want to get in early in order to take advantage of the tremendous growth potential that is there.
Brian, let's take a closer look at this continent. Where are the areas that businesses are going into? What countries are we looking at right now?
Well, so far it appears as though most of the money has been flowing into an area like South Africa. And I think that the biggest reason there is mainly because of it's very resource rich, and also it has obviously historical ties to the continent, especially the United Kingdom. And so as a result, you have certain institutions in place that are a little bit more favorable to foreign investors. So given their higher per capita income, and then if you also look at other areas as far as on the northern part of Africa, there seems to be quite a bit of wealth there that some foreign businesses really want to take advantage of. A number of U.S. retailers and European retailers have been announcing expansion plans into many of the different countries within Africa.
You know, let's take a trip west to the west coast of Africa and Nigeria. Some people say Nigeria could possibly be the next China when it comes to investors. Do you agree?
I think it could be. And really the key is going to be as far as getting the politics right and making sure that you have the institutional change. Obviously, Nigeria has its issues. Every country has its issues, just like every family has its issues. But I think that the high unemployment rate, and they need to really start developing the agricultural sector in Nigeria. One of the problems with Nigeria is it's so dependent upon oil exports that can be both a blessing and a curse for a country. It can be a blessing in the sense that it provides great revenues, but it can also create political corruption, and also because of the currency effects, it can actually disadvantage other domestic industries from exporting. So they really do have to balance this growth as to how they're going to go about it.
You know, Brian, I think a lot of investors may and businesses may be hovering around and part of the periphery of Congo. A lot of resources there, as you know, that have certain technical qualities there and minerals that are used for technology like in cell phones, but yet and still Congo has a lot of strife going on. Do you see that perhaps we could see investors going in there if the situation politically changes in that country?
If the political situation changes, yes, I can. And that's the key thing, is pay attention to the politics. If they cannot assure the rule of law, you really can't assure investors to go in there to help develop it. Because the last thing an investor wants to do is commit a lot of resources to go in there only to have it confiscated or perhaps compromised because of some political or violent situation that might erupt. So that's really, I think, the thing that's been holding back Africa for a very long time, is some of the tribalism that continues take place in the conflict, and it doesn't make a very friendly environment for investors.
Yeah, let's stay on technology for a second here. You know, much of sub-Saharan Africa is not developed. We know that they have situations there where there's not electricity. President Obama came and announced support, having businesses come down there and put up a whole lot of energy companies there. But what about tech companies? Because there's a lot of undevelopment there. Do you see any opportunity for tech companies to come into sub-Saharan Africa?
Yes, I do. And I think actually the mobile phone technology could serve as a really nice platform for growth for not only sub-Saharan Africa, but for just about any developing country, really. I mean, as far as the ability to communicate with others, the ability to not just communicate with people, but to store information, to get information, also to conduct financial transactions, provides financial services. I think that one of the problems is that a lot of times the governments in those areas, they aren't all that willing to give up some of the spectrum that's needed in order to develop the cell phone technology, and they view it more as a cash cow, as far as in some estimates that I've seen is like 40% of the cost of owning a mobile phone in some of these countries, it goes to taxes. So I think that the governments really have to view it as more of, this is a platform for growth, not a cow that they want to milk.
Absolutely. You know, Brian, of course, we're hoping that jobs are also produced there for people in these countries when businesses go in. But anyway, we're going to keep our eye on this. Brian Jacobson, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Ahead, cyber attackers strike again. Several major hotels have been hit. We'll have more on that when we come back. You're watching Arise Exchange.
News can definitely be improved when reflecting diversity.
A lot of mainstream news, they don't dive into it.
Who wants to hear about negativity all the time?
They only show what they think people want to know and not what people really should know.
World-based stories, that's what I enjoy the most.
I think diversity of news is important to the world so that everybody will be aware of their surroundings and what is happening today.
Arise News, every culture, every angle.
The great thing about Arise Entertainment 360 is that we cover the 360 of entertainment, food, fashion, lifestyle, culture. We're able to cover it all. And the thing I love most about the show is we're able to do a stunning combination of high and low. So we can talk about Rihanna on the red carpet, but we can also speak about high art with people like Sanford Biggers and Hank Willis. We actually spend quality time with our guests and we really get to know them. It's really intriguing because we get a 360 look at our guests.
You know, I got a bone to pick with these hackers. They just won't quit. This time, hotel franchises, including the Hilton, Marriott, Sheraton, and the Westin, were targets of a cyber attack, compromising credit and debit card information for thousands of guests who stayed at these hotels last year. Cybersecurity expert and Berkeley Variatronic CEO Scott Schober joins us from Metuchen, New Jersey, with more details. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on, Julian.
Good to talk to you once again. Look, Scott, this is getting ridiculous here. We talked about Target, Neiman Marcus, and now we're getting targeted at hotels. You can't even get a good bed someplace right now with your family to have a good night's sleep without cyber people coming in. What do you make of all this? How did all this happen?
Well, this is, again, in the long lines of cyber attacks that have happened, starting with Target. And there's a lot more to come, unfortunately. It's slowly unfolding, and we're starting to hear about it. This particular attack with White Lodging, who's really a franchise management company, this happened actually back starting March 23rd in 2013 up to the end of 2013. And it was the same type of attack that happened to Neiman Marcus and to Target and to Michaels and all these other retail chains that are coming out with these revelations. So it's certainly very scary.
Well, Scott, I'm really not satisfied with what authorities are telling us. You watch your credit card, your debit card, you change your passwords, but that doesn't seem to be stopping these attackers.
No, not at all. In fact, they're so crafty. They're just finding newer ways to do this. They even go to the length of stealing the data at the point of sale terminal and this special malware program they've coined it Black POS for point of sale. Mm-hmm. That malware, that virus on the terminal there, actually then re-encrypts itself, so it can't be detected by any of the security programs that these retailers have in place. So they're going undetected for the most part. It's alarming.
Scott, we just saw recently lawmakers on Capitol Hill dragging Target to testify before them, and almost like putting them on the spot. But Target wasn't responsible for any of these attacks. What was the point of that?
Well, they're probably using them as the example because they're the big guy there. They're the number 2, number 3 retailer throughout the U.S. So if they react to this and they start implementing more security measures, if they move to chip and pin technology, which has been proven to be more secure in Europe and in Canada, then other retailers will soon follow suit. But something's got to be done, and it's got to be done right away because consumers are nervous. They're afraid to take out their credit card.
Absolutely. We were talking about, of course, Westin, Hilton, Marriott, Sheraton hotels have been targeted. What can these hotels do?
Well, obviously, they're going to be very diligently looking closely at the information of all their guests. Now, I should point out, it seems to be isolated to those customers last year that shopped in the gift shops and the restaurants. There's one possible transaction that happened at the actual desk where you sign in to get your hotel room, but that's not confirmed. So primarily gift shops and restaurants, if someone shopped there from that March time frame to the end of last year with their credit card, they should look very closely at their statement.
Scott, let's talk about the wave of technology. We're going off into the stratosphere, right now. It almost seems like the twilight zone for me with so many things coming. I mean, one thing is fashionable, and 6 months later, it's obsolete. And, it's like an 8-track, just being out of whack in about 6 to 8 months. My question is this. When we've talked about this before, Scott, okay, let's talk about, for instance, cars. We have these smart cars, but now you have cyber attacks against the cars. When does technology stop so security can catch up with technology?
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And everybody's running into this same problem. They're racing to market to implement technology, and a lot of it's wireless technology. That's where we're experts at. We design tools to help with these wireless installs, but they're not testing it so they're solid from a security standpoint and get all the vulnerabilities out. They need to do that early on before they mass deploy this, or else there's major problems.
Well, look, I know people are concerned about too much government. I think I am to a certain extent, too. It seems to me it would be a good thing for government to take a look at some of these companies and make sure that they have the kind of technology that can be monitored before it goes out there on the market. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, that's a very good point. You hate to get government intervention. They're stepping into everything, and it does add layers of bureaucracy and problems and other things. But there's got to be some standards. To date, they've used the PCI compliance in the credit card industry with working with retailers and banks and things of that sort. And to some degree, revelations that have unfolded in these retailer sectors, they found that a lot of this, they were not compliant. The regular security audits and checks, they're not doing it on a monthly basis. They would do it when there was a problem. So they're reactive. They're not being proactive. Retailers need to step it up. They need to be more diligent to win back the consumers and resecure these networks and these transactions.
Well, I'll tell you what we need to do, Scott. My thing. Go back to the old-fashioned way and just use cash.
That's it. Carry around $1,000 in your pocket. You're a lot safer.
Absolutely. That whole wad of cash there. Scott Schober, thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Julie.
You got it. Next, Google Glasses, smart vests, and GPS backpacks, wearable tech gadgets, the wave of the future when Arise Xchange returns.
Arise serves underserved communities by bringing them news, information, sports, and entertainment from places that are becoming part of the world economy, that are becoming a part of the world voice, and decisions that are affecting things in the world that people care about. They care about the economy. They care about safety and security. And if you come to Arise and you watch our broadcast, these are the things we're going to bring to you every day, 24 hours a day.
I think media and reporters have a lot to answer for.
AIDS, hunger, people not having running water, the things that we just take for granted.
I think the most important issues in the world today are education and poverty.
Terrorism and war, I guess, is always. It's always an issue, and the quality of life of certain groups of people in certain areas.
I think inequality.
Arise News, every culture, every angle.
Talking about technology, it's becoming a global phenomenon. Wearable technology, sometimes called fashion electronics. high-tech gadgets that's helping to change the way consumers work and play, and experts say they aren't going away anytime soon. Technology expert and Quantum LLC CEO Ari Zoldan joins us now with more information on these gadgets and shows us how they work. Welcome.
Great to be here.
And, Ari, well, first of all, you've got the Google glasses on, and your card is even high-tech here. I mean, this thing could blind one of our cameramen. This is ridiculous.
And it's dangerous also, so you have to be careful.
Yeah, you can use this as a weapon.
Exactly,
all right.
Cutting knife.
Well, first of all, let's talk about the glasses you have on. I mean, these things look ridiculous. I saw somebody walking down the street
I'm
with these things
I'm on a fence right now, whether it's a fashion faux pas or it's very fashionable.
Well, maybe it will be soon enough as Burberry gets in.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, tell us, what do these glasses do?
So this is what's called wearable technology. So we're going to start seeing, obviously we're going to start seeing a lot more glasses on the market. There are smart watches. Obviously your phone is somewhat considered wearable technology as well. We carry it around. Right now, wearable technology is a $3 billion market. Over the next 5 years, it's going to grow to about $12.9 billion.
Okay. I want to try these glasses on for me. I want to see what these things do. How these things look, guys? I look chic? I look good here in the studio? Really?
It works well with your tie also.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Color coordinated.
The blue and the orange is great, though.
Okay, look, before we get into this thing, it's like a fashion statement, too, because they said Burberry. I think they're consulting Burberry to make this.
Of course. I mean, fashion technology, they have a very close relationship. So the idea of these is Google wants to be, Google's in the content space, so they want to capture everything. So what better to have a screen right on top of your eyes so you can take photos with it, you could read your email, take videos, and on and on.
All right, so even if you have these glasses on, I hear there's some concerns from people that this might be a compromise to privacy.
Of course. Of course, and that's always a conversation. Look, whenever you can
wear these.
Whenever you have a relatively complicated ecosystem, there's always going to be pockets of inefficiencies, right? So you're online, you have banking transactions, there's always going to be a concern whether look, you were talking to Scott before about identity theft. I mean, point in case also, there's always going to be pockets of inefficiencies.
I'm getting kind of scared about these things. I mean, let's talk about GPS backpacks also. What do they do? I mean, so you can. What do they do? Talk to me.
The backpacks could find your location. So it's in a perfect situation, or a good application for the backpacks would be if you're out there camping or you're skiing on a high mountaintop. So if you're under an avalanche, it could actually track your coordinates and then send it back to a police station.
And actually, this would be good for parents who want to make sure they know where their kids are at all times going to school.
Right. So child tracking is a sector that's about to blow up. Alzheimer's tracking for the elderly community also. These are all examples how technology is helping the consumer. People always talk about the problems. But there's so many good things too that are created with technology, and I think it makes life a lot easier.
Yeah, but I want to dwell on the negative. Okay. My producer Alvina says that these things, the Google glasses here, might be a concern, and the thing for police, people wearing these things, not paying attention to the road, so on and so forth. Do you see that being a problem?
Alvina's right, 100%. I mean, I wear it. I wear it driving, and it's a distraction.
Come on, why?
It is a distraction.
Why are you wearing it?
Because it's very cool. Because it's very cool, and people.
Do you know what you look like with those things on?
And people. Listen, I was telling people before, I was in the elevator, and half the people gravitated towards me. The other people got off at an earlier floor because they weren't able to make sense of what it was.
There was one person that says and believes that you are the king of cool and the king of tech, and that's my producer Alvina.
Well, she's amazing. So,
I beg to differ. I wouldn't wear these things.
Well, you're going to get to like me. Don't worry.
No, I will. Not you. Yes, I like the glasses.
The glasses you're not too crazy
about.
All
right, what else do we have out there outside of these glasses and GPS backpacks that we can look forward to?
So there's watches. The iWatches are a hot item right now, and health tech is huge. I mean, right now you could download apps and you can carry these little monitors on your belt. It could tell you how many feet you've walked, and it could monitor your weight loss, which is pretty amazing. I don't know if I want to
know all this stuff. I'm monitoring my weight loss. I just want a pizza. I want something with cholesterol.
Well, it can actually tell you how many steps it is to the local pizza store. So if you're interested in location-based services, there's an example. But yeah, it's data overload. There's a lot of data out there, and technology is. I think technology is amazing. It's on the forefront of innovation, and it's going to drive our economy.
The intrepid Ari Zoldan.
Thank you.
Thank you. My new best friend. You can keep those glasses.
Thank you. You could borrow it if you like.
Okay, now for a look ahead, all eyes will be on the January employment report, which comes out on Friday. Investors are hoping for a rebound after December's disappointing 74,000 jobs. Now for a recap of the markets, the Dow closing at 15,445, the S&P 500 closing at 1755, and the NASDAQ ended the day at 4031. Thanks for watching. I'm Julian Phillips, and we will see you tomorrow.
On a wide shot.